Hello, my name's Cayenne. I'm an Appalachian Fox construct. I'm genetically 3% Reese Puff. I'm the president of Ohio, and I play Team Fortress 2 Classified, which, by the way, is absolutely free. And today we're going to be reacting to Kaluka's video reviewing every item in Team Fortress 2 Classified. I'm going to state from the outset not to poison the well, but to let you know what my intentions are with this video and why I'm reacting to it. It is not because I dislike Kaluka. I'm subscribed to their channel and have been for over a year. I enjoy their channel. It's just that I don't want the classified programmers to listen to anything that person has to say, because they clearly don't enjoy this game, and them trying to balance this game for them, them giving any sort of feedback is just kind of like frustrating, because all they are saying in this video is that they don't like the game currently where it's at. But I do like the game currently where it's at. I like their design philosophy, and I don't want that to get watered down. Now, thankfully, with the April Fool's update and various other things that I have seen from them, I don't think that they are easily swayed, but I just have to have my opinions on this on record. Also, he does do a good job of going over what the items in the game do, and then, yeah. So we'll get into that. Do like and subscribe, and do check out his video. It is linked down in the comments below.
By the community, for the community, giving us a glimpse into an alternate reality where payload is worse and the server browser remained the only way to connect to games forever. I was honestly shocked when I touched that live wire, and was really surprised to see just how much TF2c popped out on release day. The original mod was always a very niche but interesting project that had like 1, maybe 2 active servers a day, but the recent Steam release had thousands of players on and still has about 3,000 people playing as I'm writing this. That's an impressive amount for a mod that is a shoot-off of a 20-year-old game that's way past its prime and has been surrounded by gloomy dweebs for the last 3 years, so what could be causing this success? And it's probably a lot of things. For one, the mod itself is very well made. The new models are quite good, the animations are cool. There's a lot of things that work as well as they do because the execution is just very good. There's no doubt that this mod is made by skillful programmers and artists. It also runs really well, like to the point where it induces envy in me as a live TF2 player because I would love to get more than 90 FPS on this ancient-ass game, Valve. And it also doesn't have hats, which...
He's about to talk about cosmetics. Right where I paused it. The cosmetics is a big reason why I do not want to play Team Fortress 2 live. It was interesting. Oh man, I can't remember who said it. Something of the lines of like, death of an art style as a video was just like overrated. No, I am truly that bothered how shit Team Fortress 2 looks. Like it's not a joke. It's not a put on bit. The hats and the items in that game are just so cluttered. And then you go to Team Fortress 2 Classified and you're like, oh, everything is like nice and clean and smooth and readable and understandable. And then you have items like the brick where you get hit with the brick and you're like, oh, I got hit with the brick. The brick does what the brick does. And it's not like, oh, milk, I gain life now. I like this version better. Anyway.
Some people find appealing, but most importantly, it has new weapons. That's right, the apple of the TF2 community's eye. These people can't get enough of weapon discourse. That's what carried us through hard times such as the Great Scout Rebellion, the Blue Team Civil War, or Jennifer. This is simply what people like, at least most of all, when it comes to TF2 content. And frankly, I can't really blame them because it is an interesting topic, and I like it too. Which is why I was really disappointed with a lot of the new weapons in TF2c, and why I think I can give valuable feedback on why I feel that way. Being completely transparent and to the point, I don't really like TF2c weapon design, neither on an individual basis or as a greater philosophical idea. There are some examples.
Same note, I'm glad that you said that. I do not like live Team Fortress 2's balanced design or their philosophy on these things. I don't like that there is a black box and it gives you a health pack on attack or kill or whatever it is this week. I don't like that. I like form follows functions items. I like that the coil gun, when you see it, you're like, oh yeah, that does the thing that you would expect it to do. There are nuances to it, but you figure them out pretty quick.
I quite like, but even those aren't perfect. I'm not saying this to be a hater or a hipster or anything, but genuinely because I think I have something that I want to say. This is weird for me because this isn't the same as being critical towards a Valve-made weapon, because Valve is an enormous corporation with near infinite resources who is selling us something. TF2c is the object of passion, made by volunteers for free. As a hobbyist game dev, I can appreciate that kind of project, and again, I think TF2c as a whole is really cool. I just don't really like the direction that the weapons have gone in, and it has made enjoying the mod difficult for me.
This right here is the premise. In this video, he is going to say 3 things repeatedly. He's going to repeat himself quite a bit, I'm going to be honest. He says spam a lot. I looked up the definition of spam. It's about using a tactic over and over again to get an unfair advantage or disrupt gameplay. That's not what's happening. That's not what he's describing. I don't think that this person knows what the word spam means. And furthermore, I don't think anybody who uses the term spam as a pejorative knows what it means. If you're playing Street Fighter, you're going to get hit with a Hadoken, and you're going to occasionally run into an opponent who throws a lot of Hadokens. It's just the name of the game, and you got to be okay with that. However, here, other things he says are the word skill. I don't care about skill. I like that Team Fortress 2 Classified is lower and dumber down and easier to get a handle on. Things like the anchor, and we'll talk about that later, but things like the anchor are a lot easier to use than the Market Gardener, and that's why it is a market replacement for the Market Gardener for a more casual audience. And I like that this game is geared towards that sort of environment. Yeah. But annoying and easy versus skillful and homoerotic. Now, obviously, they're being a little sardonic there, but I definitely think that annoying and easy is better. I like that more. I like that route more. I like the hunting rifle more. So let's go down that path, and let's let the regular game, live, go down its skillful and homoerotic path. That's perfectly fine for me.
And we're going to discuss all 20 new TF2c weapons, and we're going to do so honestly, minus the 2 for civilian because I don't really care and they're not that interesting anyway. I don't really have any specific rules or plan for which weapon goes where, so we're just gonna start and keep going until we're out of them. So let's begin. The first weapon we're going to talk about is the Cyclops, and the Cyclops is basically the detonator, like almost entirely, but it's a grenade launcher. Just like the detonator, you can detonate your pills mid-air, and doing so also sets off any ordnance the demo has thrown out with his secondary. So it is both the detonator, the Pyro flare gun, and the detonator of bombs. I'm not really a huge fan of this weapon. On paper, it seems really...
I'm a huge fan of this weapon. I think that it's incredibly fun. I like that you get one in there. I like the slowdown. The biggest criticism that he's going to pull here is that it's spammy. I disagree. I think a regular pipe bomb launcher that has 4 grenades at any time that are able to be spammed out is definitely more annoying. You do have to be more precise with this. And yeah, it does not have very high of a learning curve. It's pretty easy to just bowl out a nice bocce ball and then blow somebody up with it. But again, the metric that I come back to is if I'm being killed, what do I feel would be funny to die by? And I think dying to the Cyclops, in my experience, is always more fun than dying to the pipes. Not like I'm like upset when I'm dying to pipes or to, this, that, or the other thing, but I kind of have a cosmic view of this where dying is just part of the game. And I don't know that other people share that opinion, because whenever they complain about an item, specifically items that are weapons that are designed to like blow, a person up, a lot of the times the complaints come down to I died by it. And there's just a bunch of extra steps to that. And I think that that's mostly what he's saying here.
Cool. You can use good situational awareness to hit people with air detonated pills and set up cool combo kills where you drop a sticky and detonate it at the perfect time to catch someone's bad positioning. That sounds awesome, right? And yeah, you can do that, but what I found myself and others actually ended up doing, which was almost criminally effective sometimes, was sitting up somewhere with a good view and spamming stickies all over the place and then detonating them in clusters as I needed. It was kind of like playing with the Scottish Resistance, except your timing and your pill aim were basically impeccable and could not fail. The cool thing about the sticky bomb launcher to me...
I'm not sure what they mean by that your pill timing is impeccable, and it's like, Okay, when you're detonating the Scottish resistance things, you got to look at them. And with this has a travel time. So like, I don't know exactly. Like, I kind of get where he's coming from. I do. I get the premise that like, yeah, this thing's detonated, so we have to like talk about the sticky bomb launcher in conjunction with it. And like, the closest thing is using the Cyclops with the vanilla sticky bomb launcher in this game is a lot like using the Scottish resistance. I get where he's coming from, but like also, it is a little bit apples and oranges. A little bit. I'm not sure exactly what point is trying to be made here. But yeah, using it to detonate traps, that's its intended function, yeah. You're supposed to be using it that way. Now, I don't normally. I'm just using it with the combo item because I am on a sticky bomb cleansing journey. I am not using it. It's a celibacy journey from the sticky bomb launcher because it is and always has been overpowered.
Is that it's very often most effective when you're being very deliberate with your sticky. People tend to associate the sticky bomb launcher with spam, which isn't unfair, but quite a lot of the time, it's really better to be precise and thoughtful with how you use it to make the most out of your admittedly large ammo reserves. Sticky spam can be quite powerful, but placing smart, undetectable traps or getting an accurate read on where your enemy is going to go and sticky piping them are just as, if not more, important parts of the weapon. With the Cyclops, you kinda just...
I don't know that that's really true. I think the most spammable weapon, if spam is something that we're going to complain about, is and always has been the sticky bomb launcher. And in addition to that, the sticky bomb launcher is and always has been the most overpowered item in the game. It has never been the metagun. The metagun's fine. I could discuss the pros and cons of that at a different date, but I have always felt that the sticky bomb launcher should not have that's insane, honestly. You have something like the Scottish resistance and it's a lot more reasonable because of the arm time. However, the arm time on the vanilla sticky bomb launcher, both in Classified and in live Team Fortress 2, I have always thought was obnoxious and overpowered. I've always thought that you should have to do a lot more pre-placing to get effectiveness out of your sticky bombs, and you just really don't need to. So that's kind of like where I'm coming from on balanced decision. Like, it's kind of hard to complain about the Cyclops or the Dynamite when in effect, they are trying to make the Demo Man not as effective as the vanilla sticky bomb launcher. I just wish that they would go ahead and nerf the sticky bomb launcher too.
Saturate whatever area you need to, and then blow them up, offer their bodies as meat tithe to the lesser bird demon Glaxamundi, and move on. It isn't really as thoughtful as
but like the point being made that like you're blowing people up as Demo Man. No shit, Sherlock. Like I don't know that you're going to blow up any harder with the Cyclops than you do versus the vanilla sticky bomb launcher. You're still just blowing up. And again, you are limiting the amount of uptime that you have if you decide to go with the Cyclops, just on account of reloading alone.
Might appear on the surface in practical situations. The stuff that is supposed to be skillful and cool about this weapon, these combos you can do where you throw out a sticky or a dynamite or whatever and then detonate it with the Cyclops, I don't think are necessarily any more so than stock demo already is. The difference between a sticky pipe...
He's trying to make there by saying that using a sticky bomb launcher is more skillful than landing a combo kill with the Dynamite and the Cyclops. So, who cares what's more skillful or less skillful? Who cares about that when the question should be what's fun and funny? And that's my philosophy on Team Fortress 2. When I play it, I'm playing it to laugh and giggle, and I want to be engaged with the game. I want to try hard and everything, but I'm also picking it specifically because it is the most jovial and silly and cartoony of shooting games. And so if an item is funny to die to, I don't mind it. There are a lot of items that are funny to die to that are frustrating, sure, but I'm not frustrated by this, and so that goes back to subjective fun. I think that these items are more fun than, for instance, the Quickie Bomb Launcher, or... Not that I hate that thing. I think that that's a well-designed item. I'm just using it as an example. Like, I would rather go up against these items. If any item in Team Fortress 2 Live needs to be nerfed, it is the Sticky Bomb Launcher, and I'll stick by that.
And a combo with this thing is that sticky pipes are harder because you actually have to hit the pill, and you have to click 2 buttons instead of 1. The only combo that was really noteworthy was
and as the video goes on, I will interrupt him less and less. He's just talking about a lot of problems here that I find weird. When he says the sticky bomb launcher is more skillful to use, I don't know that that is the case in theory. Like, I think that the use cases are different as they should be, and I think that the designs are different. I don't know that one is harder than the other. I haven't measured. He also says, like, direct sticky pipes or something along those lines. Let me scroll back just a little bit. I think that that's a... I don't understand what he was actually trying to say here.
And then detonate it with the Cyclops, I don't think are necessarily any more so than stock demo already is. The difference between a sticky pipe and a combo with this thing is that sticky pipes are harder because you actually have to hit the pill, and you have to click 2 buttons instead of 1. The only combo that was really noteworthy...
Nomenclature of hit the pill when talking about a sticky bomb launcher, I'm not sure what he means. So, like, if Kaluka does show up and can clarify what they meant there, using... Because I think of the term as of pill and stick as mutually exclusive, unless I'm crazy. Like, that's always the way that the nomenclature's been used for me. Like, hitting a direct sticky, like, means, like, hitting a sticky on their body or at their feet and then immediately detonating it. And if that's the case, that's spam, homie. That's spam. Like, it might be a direct hit, but it's still, you're spamming it out. You know what I mean?
Was the synergy with Dynamite, which was kind of cute, but that's about it. The slightly off thing about this weapon is that you can independently detonate both stickies and mines without it. So the only weapon you can detonate early, which doesn't also just detonate itself for you, is the Dynamite. The Dynamite, however, has a damage penalty when detonated with the Cyclops. And I don't think that's a terrible idea, by the way. I think this was probably way too strong before that change was implemented, but it is weird to get nerfed because you're using the weapon that complements the Cyclops the most directly. As far as this weapon works as just an...
The reason that they're doing that is because they don't want one thing to synergize too well. They want the synergies to stay across the board. And what happens in live Team Fortress is you get a bunch of items that are, in my opinion, not complementary with all of the other item slots that character has, that Merc has. So you get situations where it's like, I'm going to invest everything into making sure that I have many crits as Scout. But when you're doing that, you're really just kind of like putting all your eggs in one basket. And so there are loadouts that are optimal and loadouts that are less optimal. And I like that in this game, albeit there are less items overall, so there's less to balance around. I like that the items are nonetheless synergistic with most of the other stuff, the possible exception being the gunboats, which do kind of have like silly item loadouts that you can go with in this game. But I still want the option, yeah. But in that sense, that being a hidden stat is not too weird to me because the minigun has hidden stats about sentries and everything, and most players don't even know that, I don't think.
Dependent grenade launcher. The grenade launcher is one of the best designs in TF2, not just as a weapon, but as a weapon that is part of a greater African whole. It's a really integral part of what makes Demo Man fun, both to play and play against. The grenade launcher is powerful, but hard to use against good players, especially at close range. This weapon is both not nearly as powerful since you only have one shot in the mag, and not nearly as hard to hit with since you can just detonate the pipe whenever you need to. It's a lot like the loose cannon, except the loose cannon requires an estimation of charge beforehand, and has really funny rewards for being correct.
The loose cannon has a lot of eccentricities that take time to get used to, and I like the loose cannon. In fact, I would go so far as to say I think that that's a pretty uncontroversial item in Team Fortress 2 Live. However, you get a perfectly measured double donk. There's really not shit you can do about that double donk. And so for that reason, I feel that there is problematic nature to just about every Team Fortress 2 Live item. A lot of them just have like weird problematic things of like, well, you could theoretically complain about that. It does suck to get one shot by a double donk. However, it is skillful to do it. That said, this item doesn't have as many upsides and is also a lot more consistent. And I would rather put an item into the hands of a fellow demo man, a teammate demo man. I would rather my teammate demo man have the Cyclops rather than the loose cannon. Because with the Cyclops, even with a little bit of competence, they're going to be able to do something with it. But when the skill input is too high, and the reward to get the double donks, the skill input to get the double donks is too high. If my teammates don't have that skill, then I'm just left with a double donkless teammate. And so that's one problem that you get with Team Fortress 2 Live is you get teammates that are doing the gimmick thing. And when they're doing the gimmick thing really hard, they're not spamming. And I want them to be spamming. I want my teammates to be contributing to the fight in some form or fashion. And I think that having less skillful items means that more people are going to be able to participate at all times. And that means that your lowest skill player is going to have a bigger impact on the game. That's my pontifications on why I would prefer the Cyclops over the loose cannon double donk. Anyway.
And having decent aim. This just kind of doesn't really do any of that. You sort of just mindlessly fire off shots at your enormous minefield of explosives whenever anyone dares to walk into the space you're controlling. And if you're 1v1ing somebody without having set up, you're kind of just a lot worse, but also much more consistent. The amount of times I've killed somebody with this thing just as a grenade launcher and thought that there was
through this video where he will say things and then I will nod along and agree, and then he will just think of them as a bad thing. It's like, yeah, if you're not set up as a demo man with your sticky traps out, if you're trying to use the sticky bomb launcher and the Cyclops together, yeah, you should be up Shit's Creek a little bit. That's the idea. Like, I don't know why there's downtime with demo. That's how that's supposed to work. Again, I just don't, he's framing things that are upsides and downsides like they're bad. And I don't understand that necessarily.
Pretty much literally nothing they could have done to avoid it is very often. And that just doesn't seem quite as fun.
A lot of things in Team Fortress 2. There are a lot of times when it's like, oh, there's nothing I could have done about that. I rounded the corner and the sniper had the beat on me and they just got the headshot. I rounded the corner and then there was the, Ubered heavy and I just didn't hear that call out or whatever. There's a lot of times when you die in Team Fortress 2 that there really wasn't shit that you could do about it, and that's okay because you respawn.
As the stock grenade launcher is. The primary reason that makes this weapon feel like it's difficult to avoid is that it simply gives you control over your rollers. As we know, in normal TF2, if you fail to make direct contact with an enemy or their buildings with your grenade launcher, then the pill that you fired will simply roll around the world and then detonate itself after about 2.3 seconds. Typically, they're not really that strong. They can be impactful, and you can definitely saturate an area where people refuse to move like an engineer's nest, but there are many more times where a roller will harmlessly bounce somewhere it can't do any damage, or it'll do like 30 to 40 at most. The Cyclops' rollers not only deal more damage—
Agree, because the amount of times that you just like, excuse me, had a little burp there, a little indigestion, that you are like, God freaking damn it, after you fire the lock and load and miss, like the not having the rollers is a big deal. I get where you're coming from. Again, I'm not trying to take away your point. But like rollers are maybe a little bit better than you're giving them credit for, maybe?
For some reason, about 50% more, but they deal their maximum damage, or very close to it, much more consistently because you're the one who detonates them. Not to mention that grenades that would have become rollers because they missed can also explode right next to the target for most of the damage they would have done. The Cyclops is simply less punishing if you don't hit somebody directly. This makes it capable of much greater damage more consistently shot for shot, which can be kind of a pain. It feels like you've gone from a weapon that can deal 100 damage in the right hands, or basically 0 in the wrong hands, to a weapon that can deal about 70 to 80 damage per shot in everyone's hands. Even the detonator in live TF2 comes packaged with a 25% damage penalty because of how consistent it can be. I think one of the problems with this weapon is that it was—
I see your point. Apples and oranges, though, because this is a Demo Man primary. You have one in the magazine, and you are expecting those rulers to be able to finish a person off. That's what you're hoping for. You're hoping that roller gets there and like dinks them off. So yeah, that's why it has the bonus damage. You're a demo man and you should be blowing stuff up.
Balanced a little bit too extremely in both directions. Having only one shot in the mag is a massive downside, so they made that one shot much more consistent and also much more powerful pound for pound to try to offset that penalty. When it feels like to me if you were simply willing to make the weapon a little bit harder to hit with, you could get away with having like 2 shots in the mag. One of the things I like about TF—
You want 2 shots in the mag on the Cyclops? This person will then go on to not understand that the harvester needs to reap what it sows. So I don't think that they get the item theming of the weapons. Now, I could say that I am like purposefully making a straw man there and being reductive, but I feel like this person is being quite reductive on Team Fortress 2 items as well. So I'm going to stand by my reductive statement.
Is that weapons are balanced pretty extremely, but you don't necessarily have to go like this far.
Yeah, you can. As extreme as you
Now
want.
on to something I'm more positive about, the Liscompe. The Liscompe is basically just the stock Inviswatch, but everything about it goes faster. You run out of cloak faster, you quite literally move faster while invisible. If you take damage, you lose meter, so it runs out faster, and it refills faster because you have less of it to refill. I really enjoy this weapon. It's effectively how a lot of people use the Dead Ringer already, where they're being more aggressive as opposed to just using the Dead Ringer to get another strafing run on the enemy's spines. The Inviswatch, more than anything, is a repositioning tool, and it's a really good one, and Liscompe allows you to make fast but risky repositions and requires more careful consideration of your resources because you simply have less of them. Not to mention, if you get caught out with this thing compared to even the regular Inviswatch, like, it is over. So you have to be playing right. I really enjoy it. It doesn't have any of the kind of eye-rolling annoyances that the Dead Ringer can have, but still lets you make speedy escapes and outmaneuver the enemy team. It lets you be agile, it requires...
I have to say about custom item servers letting you have live Team Fortress 2 items is for some reason, all of the servers that like pick custom, pick regular items from Team Fortress 2 live to put in the server, they always pick the Dead Ringer and put it in there. And I'm like, aren't we Dead Ringer refugees? Didn't we come to this game to escape this kind of cheesy nonsense? And like, don't get me wrong, this game has its own cheese. Certainly, we're going to talk about the mine layer, which I'm for, but like this game has its own cheese. But like, man, I just want a respite from feigned death. God damn.
Intelligent cloaking and decloaking, and highlights good movement while cloaked so you can make the best of your limited meter and so you don't get shot midway and end up revealing yourself before you're prepared to. I really like this one. It's a very enjoyable watch. The Uberspritze is not really interesting as a weapon itself. What's interesting about it is how it highlights a weird phenomenon of TF2c weapon design. TF2c's creators have stated outright that they're not going to include any further weapons from release client TF2,
Good.
which they probably had to mention
heavens.
because one of the criticisms I hear the most just from people I play with and the people around me is that it lacks certain weapons from regular Team Fortress 2.
You want the Beggar's Bazooka added to this game, which is insane to me. Now, thankfully, there are custom item servers, so if you want it, you can get it. But like wanting this in the base Team Fortress 2 Classified tells me that you just don't get what the vibe of Classified is about. I like the item. I like the Beggar's Bazooka. I have a lot of hours playing with the Beggar's Bazooka. I love overloading on the Beggar's Bazooka. I love banners with the Beggar's Bazooka. I enjoy Team Fortress, in fact. However, I don't want that in this game. I don't want the randomized overload item in this game. Do you know what they have as an option on some custom item servers? The Badland Bombarder, which allows you to load up to 6 rockets, and they are all like half-powered and stuff, but you are sending them in an arc, and it's kind of like a replacement for the Beggar's Bazooka with no random deviation, and also balanced for the idea of trying to get rid of like a sentry nest. It's fun. I like that item. I don't want the same version of I want a branching path, just like the Team Fortress 2 Classified people have promised. No, I don't want the Beggar's Bazooka. And for every item that you add, there is a large contingent of the player base that joined Team Fortress 2 Classified to avoid that item. The amount of times that people have said to me, it's like, I'm here because I don't want to deal with the Dead Ringer, or I don't want to deal with the Phlogistinator. Again, I don't hate those items, but this is the respite from those things. We are refugees from those things. Please do not add the Beggar's Bazooka, because even though I don't hate the Beggar's Bazooka, somebody who is playing Classified is playing it to escape the freaking Beggar's Bazooka.
That people would really like. Personally, I think this is kind of a misplay by the TF2c team. They're basically just leaving some of the most beloved parts of Team Fortress 2 on the table for not really any benefit, and I think that's going to harm the mod in the long term. And it's especially...
The benefit is right there. The benefit is you don't have to deal with the Dead Ringer if you don't like the Dead Ringer. You don't got to deal with the Force of Nature if you don't like the Force of Nature. Whatever it is that you don't like, complaining about knockback. Anyway, I'm digressing. I just don't know where there is a reason. There are plenty of reasons. I can think of many reasons to hate the Thompson.
Confused because certain achievement unlocks from Live TF2 are included in the mod, like the Huntsman or the Sandwich, and many more have been effectively cloned with minor changes, and that's where the Uberspritze comes in. Because the Uberspritze is basically just an altered Ubersaw in an extremely minor way. We've traded the fire rate penalty for minor...
He's about to explain what it does. It is not edited in a minor way. They are trying to make it seem like these two things are equal, and I would say that if they don't understand that these two things are really different downsides. The downside of the Ubersaw is the 20% slower firing speed, 10%, 10 HP less with the Uberspritze. The Uberspritze is a well thought out item. I'm going to let him ramble.
It's 10 maximum health. And honestly, I don't really care which of these two downsides is the correct one. I don't really think they make a significant change one way or another. 140 isn't a significant threshold as far as I'm aware, and minus 20% fire rate isn't a massive deal anyway, because you're probably only getting one...
It's not a massive threshold, but it is enough of a threshold that you're taking down 10 health on a class that has the ability to recharge that last bit of health. So it is a significant number. But I say that to say this, like, understand that 10 less health at all times is an actual downside. 20% lower firing speed has never been a real downside whatsoever for getting free utility that you don't have with the bone saw. And I'm not talking about bouncing this thing against the bone saw. I am saying that if you want to have extra utility, you should have to give up something actually significant for that, not giving up combat effectiveness. So this has always been inadequate and made with child labor, as you mentioned later. But like, I don't know why you're then contesting that reworking these things and examining them is a bad idea. You then just say, like, I'm not sure which one, like, it's not a difference to me. Well, it is a difference to me. It's a huge difference to me, gameplay philosophy-wise. Because one is a persistent downside at all times for the ability to get a new ability, and this is not a downside.
This weapon with such a minute difference at all, while simultaneously shunning many other great, extremely fun weapons from proper TF2. It might be because the modders can control...
Thank God, it sucks that we don't have Girardi. It would be nice if we just had like a free spot checking tool that you don't have to do anything to get.
The distribution of modded weapons, since Valve explicitly stated that you can't give out free items in your mod except for achievement items like the Huntsman, or because they want a greater control of how the metagame of TF2c evolves, but I don't think either of those two are particularly good excuses, especially if you're going...
Not a good excuse to curate the metagame of this game when the entire purpose of making the game is to curate a different metagame than the one that y'all are playing. It's a very good reason. It's a very good reason. I don't want most of those items in Team Fortress 2 Live added, especially after the Manconomy update. Most of the items after the Manconomy update are a little garbled. Not all of them. I don't hate all of them. I'm just saying I want different ones. I don't want to be playing in the same environment with those items. More items is not necessarily good. I hope that we can all agree on that. More items is not necessarily good.
I'm gonna just copy certain weapons and give them a facelift. This does give them the opportunity to take a second glance at certain weapons and maybe fix little problems with them, but it is also a very inefficient way of doing that because you have to make an entire new asset for it. We can actually knock out two other weapons very easily by applying basically the same logic to them. The brick is like the cleaver, but instead of bleed, it does a knockback, which is everybody's favorite mechanic. I'm not really sure it's a better design.
In your shooting games, that's perfectly fine. Play a shooting game without knockback. There are tons of them out there. I don't understand why people do that. Like, they'll play Overwatch and they'll be like, I don't like the shield meta. I don't want to shoot at a bunch of shields. And it's like, then my brother in Christ, why'd you pick the game that has shields? Most video games don't have shields. I don't get it. I don't get it. So you play the game that has knockback and bleed and mini crits and stuns and all kinds of crowd control, and then you complain about the crowd control. Crowd control is and always has been a part of Team Fortress 2. Even the bullets themselves have a little bit of knockback. We need to stop complaining about knockback. It's just low-T behavior.
And it feels a bit like we're splitting hairs, though in fairness to the brick, it was also a separately tested and again cut weapon. And then there's also the Fishwhacker, which is the best of these three by far in my opinion. It is the Tribalman Shiv, but it has knockback. Now, why two of these almost reskins have knockback, I don't know. But this is a lot better than its vanilla equivalent, which isn't really hard because the Tribalman's is one of the worst designs in the game, but it is, and knockback is obviously something Sniper can desire quite a bit to maintain his range superiority on any enemies who get too close for comfort. I love it. It's a great evolution of the idea, it's much more useful against many more classes, and it's the only one of these I would really award praise to. The Fishwhacker is an example of how much good this—
They're saying, why are we redesigning these weapons with minor facelifts? You gotta pick what side of the mouth you want to talk out of.
Smith they can do, but something like the brick, I think, is an example of how much bad it can do. The brick was probably a relatively large amount of work to arrive at a conclusion that isn't really that much better than the cleaver in my opinion. I think the bleed is not only more fun both to use and again get hit with, but also it fits into Scout's design a lot better. Scout very often is chasing down 1v1s because he's really good at winning 1v1s, making your enemy—
Scout is oftentimes also injured and looking to make an escape, and the brick does that. It's a get off me tool. The knockback is a get off me tool, so it's like a branching path for an item, both of which are throwables. So you have different versions of handguns that have different upsides and downsides, and you have different versions of throwables that have upsides and downsides. And the one in this version of the game has knockback instead of bleed, which you don't prefer as a mechanic. For some reason, you prefer bleed over knockback, and that's fine. I'm not trash talking that. It's all taste, but I like the taste of the knockback. It's all good.
Bleed and giving you something to pressure them with is really good for him. It's not an inherently bad idea, but I think in a lot of cases, the original version of whatever weapon is already probably like the best one you could create, and you would probably be better off just using those.
And yet you agree that the Tribalman Shiv is not as good as the Fishwhacker. Again, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what you're trying to say. You're saying, like, one thing, but what if counterpoint?
The Harvester is a weapon that I think seriously overcomplicates a part of Pyro that doesn't really need it. As a total replacement mod, TF2c
Let me say this up front. The Pyro is meant to be more powerful in this game, and you mentioned that. The Pyro is not meant to be a combo class in this game. The Demo Man is not a Demo Knight in this game, etc., etc. This is a different branching path of balance. And I say that to say this. The Axe Extinguisher is, and has been, in every form, overtuned to some degree. I know the word overpowered, overtuned is a very divisive thing, and you're not supposed to say it about something like that. And you're also not supposed to bring up the fact that obviously having some sort of utility is going to be better against stock. But that's not even what we're talking about. We're not talking about balancing against stock. We're talking about this item not being as good. Because the Axe Extinguisher is comically good. If I bring up to you the fact that if you light a person on fire, which is the thing you're supposed to be doing as Pyro, should not get you a free crit or a free speed boost or whatever this version of the Axe Extinguisher that you currently have constructed in your mind does. That is an insane ability. And yet people will complain that, like, if you're a spy and you're zapping sentries, you shouldn't get free crits for the Diamondback because you're doing a thing you're supposed to be doing anyway. And yet the Pyro, for lighting people on fire and getting close enough to hit people with melee, which is easy to do with air blast and walls, you are now in a position where you can puff and sting a person, you get a free crit. Maybe we've just had an easy ride with Combo Pyro. And I'm going to cut around a lot of the shit that he has to say about Combo Pyro because he kind of repeats himself a lot. And I don't even know how I'm going to edit all of this to, you know, how it's edited out in the wash. But I'm saying that to say this. The Harvester is not nearly as good as the Extinguisher. And that's how I want it. I don't want it to be as good. The Extinguisher is fine in its game, but that's a game where most of the Team Fortress 2 melee items in the live game have some sort of like insane ability attached to them. And in that case, it's on Pyro, and the first Pyro unlock was the most overpowered one, which is why they needed to make the Power Jack overpowered. Every other like Pyro melee, you can take like 2 Pyro melees, combine them together, and then they're not as good as the Extinguisher, or they're not as good as the Power Jack. You can take like the Third Degree. The Third Degree is not on the same playing field as these other 2 items.
Is big basically impossible not to compare to live TF2 down to every little detail. I don't know why you wouldn't, and the game is going to spend its entire life living in TF2's shadow. That's just the reality of it. These comparisons are going...
Let me speak to you directly. Team Fortress 2 is going to live in the shadow of Classified. This is the game that is ancestral and upholding the game closer to its original intention, just on account of it doesn't have a bunch of post-May economy update items.
Happen even if the counterpart in live TF2 is only similar on a surface level. For example, the Harvester here seems a lot like the Extinguisher. They're both pyro melees that benefit from the opponent being on fire, and you get crits, or in the modern Extinguisher's case, you get the weird buffed mini-crit things, both of which designed to inflict a lot of damage and finish off an enemy. However, the Harvester isn't really like the Extinguisher at all, and it has no real relevance or synergies with what we would call combo pyro in the slightest. The Harvester requires a little bit of explanation to fully understand, so we'll start from the beginning. Sometime around 7000 BC, humans began using the first scythes to harvest grains and cereals more effectively, hoping that one day the Kellogg Cereal Company could harness the same technology to finally fund their amusement park where all the rides irreversibly intertwine the consciousnesses of the patrons forever. To help in her small way, Pyro picked up a scythe and started using it to help achieve this wondrous goal. The Harvester is weird. It has a meter because it's a TF2 custom weapon and they all have to have that, and you fill this meter through after
meters in this game. One meter is the kind that charges up when you do a thing, and the other is the kind that recharges passively. The recharging passively things are good items on account of that's a very easy balancing principle to pick. Like, oh, this item's too good, slow down its cooldown. Oh, this item's not good enough, speed up its cooldown. And this, I think, works at pacing out the game quite effectively. And the game is already really well paced as is. Team Fortress 2 Live is, and so is this. I would say that this game probably has a slower pace than Team Fortress 2 Live because the items are a little bit lower to the ground, such as this scythe here, not being as good and requiring more passive stuff. But the charging up, I don't think he understands that you're supposed to be reaping what you sow. When I said at the beginning of this video that I don't want the Team Fortress 2 classified designers to be listening to what he has to say, it's stuff like this. He's going to suggest that you should be able to gain harvest without having the thing out, and he doesn't understand why having the thing out is the thing. You're supposed to hold the thing out for the benefit in the same way that you hold out the knife in CSGO for the benefit. This is a utility item, and taking away part of the holding it in your hand menacingly is taking away part of the fun. You might not have fun taking out the Harvester, but I like the fact that you have the opportunity cost of lighting a person on fire, putting a person out of fire, one of your teammates, or hitting somebody with a flare gun, shotgun, twin barrel, whatever, or having this thing out to get the harvest. It is, you have to take it out. Your opportunity cost is you have to do one or the other or the other. You can't be doing them all at the same time. I like it designed that way. I don't want meddling in that area. I like the ritual of pulling out the thing to get the benefit. And you comparing it to the Extinguisher in terms of power level, obviously the power level of the Extinguisher is astronomical because it has always been overpowered.
Burn damage, even on corpses for a couple of ticks. And once you've sat around doing nothing for long enough, the Harvester stores a crit for you to use. It's really fun, especially in comparison to Launch Pyro, which was basically just this.
I'm starting to think that maybe you just don't enjoy Team Fortress 2 in the same way.
And instead of all of that exciting and deep stuff, the Harvester has you standing around holding out your melee weapons so you can fill the fun bar, and then you get one crit to your name.
Specifically how he just sits around waiting to get backstabbed while that happens as well, to make the gameplay look as boring as possible.
Because Combo Pyro was a huge advancement of Pyro's gameplay, something that gave her the burst damage she needed to keep up with all the grenades and snipers and rockets of the world, while also rewarding a more skillful playstyle than WM.
Burst damage is not something that the Pyro should be having, honestly. What they should be doing is burning people, and as much as possible, they should be trying to run away and then dying mid-running away. I like it when Pyro is lighting people on fire and then moving out of the way, and then that person dies off screen. To me, that is the most fun that I'm having when I'm playing Pyro. I'm also having fun with the shotgun, like blasting around, the mobility aspect of it. But I like people dying to flame. I like Afterburn. I am an Afterburn evangelist, and I like this game because it makes Afterburn better.
One. Pyro in TF2c lacks this kind of gameplay, and again, while the Harvester is not necessarily attempting to fulfill that role, the similarities and again, the voluntary absence of the extinguisher or an equivalent make it really hard not to make the comparison. Either way though, the Harvester's gameplay is just not as fun. You have to fill the bar with the Harvester by holding the weapon out, and it's a melee weapon, so before the crits it's really not very good at killing anything, so much of the time you are literally just sitting around waiting for afterburn to fill up the meter. If I had to make a suggestion, I think perhaps the Harvester meter should be filled up with afterburn damage no matter what, and holding the weapon out is the only way to get the healing instead. That way trying to use this weapon's mechanics don't interfere with your ability to go around and just do normal Pyro stuff. You can still be a part of the fight while building up the harvest. We've been a little negative here, so we're briefly going to talk about a weapon I'm an actual fan of. Chekhov's Punch is a weird little heavy weapon that lets you do some silly, fun stuff. It isn't very good, it's not crazy or game-changing, it's just good old-fashioned, smile-inducing clowning. One of the things I often like about TF2 weapon design is that most weapons exist as a modification of a base weapon. The example I often use is the black box. The black box, both in the sense of
puts up on screen a bunch of poorly designed items.
of its design and literally in the code itself, is a rocket launcher with a couple of attributes that change how it works. And I think that TF2 hit a really great balance where these weapons are significantly different enough to make them interesting, but also not too different that it feels like you have to learn an entirely new weapon. Each player, both the user of the weapon,
all of the rocket launchers are doing essentially similar things, except for really the direct hit. Like, all of them are just firing slow rockets, even if they're, it's the Liberty launcher. I don't like any of those items, and I've always thought that they were sort of lackluster, and I've always felt that the soldier deserved more. To me, the best items that the soldier has in the primary slot in the live game are the Cow Mangler, because at least it has like a fun little gimmick to it, and the direct hit, and the Beggar's Bazooka's also got its own little perks, but like, I don't like the Liberty launcher. I don't like the black box. I'm not a huge fan of the rocket jumper either. I think that these are all kind of gimmicky items. I don't think that they're very form follows function. When you see the black box, I don't know why that returns 20 health on kill. I just don't, and that hurts the readability of the game. It's confusing. I don't care for those items. I much prefer the rocket launcher, the RPG in this game.
And the enemy retain all of the skills they learned about the stock variant, and all of those skills also transfer over to many other unlocks. And the Chekhov's Punch, with its more simplistic design, achieves this very well. As for what this actually does, it's basically the KGB but a bit easier to use, which, given that it's a heavy melee, is not necessarily the worst thing. The only thing that's a little bit annoying about it is that it's in TF2c, and TF2c buffs both Heavy and Pyro, two characters that are really good at shredding you at close range. And that, especially with Pyro, more than makes up for how much easier it is to get the crits. As for whether or not it's better than the KGB, probably? I don't really know for sure. I don't really play Team Fortress 2, to be completely honest. In fact, I don't play any video games. I was cryogenically frozen 67 years ago and just woke up.
Again, they keep saying, like, why put in all this effort to make a new TF2 item? Basically saying, like, hey, developers, why were you stupid and invested time in this? Don't you understand that you were wasting your time making this? And then at the same time, they're like, I don't know. Maybe the Chekhov's is a better item than the KGB, and it being redesigned from the ground up made it a little bit more form follows function. And the fact that it's present all the time, letting you know that the Heavy constantly has the weakness of getting hit by melee crits. Like, you can't just admit it, so you have to hide it with a joke that they like actually succeeded at something. And I would say, if you're going to give them all of this crap, you should probably also just like give them their flowers at the same time, don't you think?
The RPG is a weapon that I'm not really here for, but also I guess not really that against outside of one specific detail. The weapon just isn't really that fun to use, and there is one little thing about it that is very confusing. The RPG is a rocket launcher with a singular arcing rocket, which is a very mild upside and a pretty substantial downside to have on one of the strongest weapons in the game. The coolest and the only cool thing you can do with the RPG, because the rockets fall back to Earth, is that you can perform one-man sync jumps without having to do any fancy movement or setup, allowing you to jump with the power of 2 rockets instead of 1, which can be weaponized pretty decently by the anchor, and that's about it because you only have the 1 rocket, so you're not doing any bombs. However, the RPG highlights 2 things that I don't really like about TF2c weapon design: the tendency to create and focus on spam, and how one-dimensional some of these unlocks can be. The RPG just isn't capable of the same kind of depth or dynamism that the stock rocket launcher or most of the unlocks are in live TF2. Your jumps, for instance, are limited to either those sinks or like 1 rocket jumps because you simply only have 1 rocket to work with. You're not bouncing off the floor and then off of a wall and doing any crazy cool stuff. And like I said, this very drastically affects your ability to do bombs as well, which are a crucial part of Soldier at all levels, where you effectively suicide into the
crucial part of Soldier at all levels. That's just not correct. Like, a little bit of a history lesson. When the gunboats were released, and I don't know if the Arson has like taken out the steam-powered user forums back in the day, but like when the game was released, oh my lord, people complained about the gunboats being underpowered, and they reduced more damage back then. Yes, you should be able to like dive in and bomb people as Soldier, but like if you're seeing an item that has 1 rocket in the main magazine and thinking, well, now I can't bomb, you just have a limited growth mindset, my friend. You can bomb with the RPG, or you got the shotgun. You got the shotgun to finish people off. You got the anchor to just decimate people. So like saying that you can't bomb people when the anchor is an item that you're going to talk about last in this video, yeah, you can bomb people with just the anchor. It's a dedicated bombing item. I almost always use the RPG and the anchor at the same time, and usually with the gunboats as well, and I'm able to bomb people. If you're not, that's a skill issue. Also, saying that it's not a good item when you're using the black box, and to me, it just illustrates that we do not agree on this stuff. I don't want the black box in this game. I do like the RPG. I am not here for the black box, and even though I've had fun with it, I've never been here for the black box either.
Team with a rocket jump and use the height advantage you're given to drop rockets and a putrid decaying slag onto the enemy to give your team an opportunity to make plays with the damage you've caused. You can't really do that with just 1 rocket, at least not with any semblance of speed because you gotta reload. This means that much of the time the RPG is delegated to doing much more grounded shots, we'll call them, which is a nice way of saying spamming the enemy from a distance. And the RPG is especially good at this because it deals not only extra damage, but also because it can arc over certain pieces of cover, and because for some Christ-forsaken reason, it has no damage fall-off.
Thankfully.
I can't imagine I have to really explain this, but this is a really, really goofy idea. And not goofy in like a fun way. TF2 reduces weapon damage at long range, what we call damage fall-off, for a...
No. I don't care. And I'm not going to really even offer a counter argument here, because this is just, if that's the thing that bothers you about it, when you're meant to be arcing it over stuff and there's only 1 in the magazine, it's designed that way. I'm going to skip ahead. I don't really care about your opinion on that. If you disagree with me, it's fine. You can disagree with me on all of it.
Behind their team and slinging rockets downrange over and over. Your ability to do cool stuff and play up close is just so heavily hampered with this weapon. You basically get no value from things like the gunboats because you just can't move the same way. So you just sit at the back and lob rockets at the enemy team and hope somebody is unfortunate enough to get...
With the RPG is in fact 1,000,000,000 times easier than rocket jumping with the vanilla stock rocket launcher. I super don't even know what you're going on about. I think that this is just a limit in your mindset, not mine. I do bombs with the thing all the time. I don't know what you're talking about.
Spam is something that TF2c seems to be either promoting or ambivalent of. Scout has a new gun that shoots a bunch of longer-ranged spam. The Brick is nothing but spam. The Mine Layer is just awful spam, especially before it got super mega nerfed. We still have the good old Huntsman. The Dynamite is like spam squared. There's just a lot of weapons that are designed to be flung with limited discretion at the enemy with the hopes of getting a kill. In my opinion, this isn't really fun to...
Subject. Again, I do want to bring up the fact, I don't know what definition of spam they're using. They said, what they said there The definition I saw was disruptive to gameplay and or trying to get an unfair advantage. None of those things give you an unfair advantage. Spamming them down to choke is what you're supposed to be doing in Team Fortress 2 Classified, is what you're supposed to be doing in Team Fortress 2 in general. You are supposed to be poking the enemy until you can get an opening to actually go in. And part of that is spamming. And if you are getting spammed out of choke a bunch, it's probably a indication that your team needs medics who have Uber. I don't know what else to say. Like, you're supposed to die to items in Team Fortress 2. Yep.
Play against, and it's not necessarily fun to play with either. Spam is one of the least enjoyable parts of TF2 for me. It's always going to be there, of course, but to me, TF2 is the most fun when players are doing things, making plays with a lot of intention. A soldier bombing in because his team called that the medic is low, a demo coordinating with a spy to sap a sentry and then blow it up, a medic giving sniper.
They're spamming the sentry with sticky bombs.
Top overheal so he can win the SVS, or a Pyro air blasting
heal cannon. I just don't know what you mean by spam. I'm gonna be real.
A spy away from his heavy who is too busy shooting enemies. Spamming rockets down a hallway, conversely, is not really my idea of fun, but that appears to be what I'm doing almost all of the time between the mines, the nails, the RPGs, and everything else. This is a matter of taste, I guess, but this is my video, and that is my taste. Obviously, I can't really change the team's minds or anything.
And my taste is that I like the RPG, and I think the black box is doo-doo and always has been. It's not a form follows functions item. It's not something that you would find in a JC Leinendecker painting if it was war-related. I just don't buy the black box as an item, but I do buy the RPG as an item. And I guess there's no accounting for taste, huh?
I think it's not like I put any work into this, but if I had any advice to give them, it would maybe be to reevaluate their relationship with this kind of gameplay. Just maybe take a second look at how the weapon design is progressing, because I don't think this direction is the healthiest or the most fun for the mod. Weapons like the RPG combine with the lack of unlocks from base TF2 in kind of a bad way. The game feels like it's filled with weapons.
I have no idea what the freak you're talking about. I do not want your freaking TF2 live items, post-man colony items in this game. They're not welcome here. But you know what is welcome here is the RPG. We enjoy this gameplay. You don't. That's fine. But I don't know why you're making a video trying to give constructive feedback on a game that you clearly don't enjoy in the same way that you enjoy live TF2. I think you should be making this exact video that you're making right here on these items, but for your game. I don't get why you're trying to critique these ones. You should be asking for the Fishwhacker in your game, because that's an item you like. I don't get it.
The Rejuvenator. This is also, incidentally, kind of a spam weapon, but not really because it can't hurt anybody. It's more like if Medic got to have a spam weapon, and while I think this would be a total disaster in live TF2, it is really fun to play with in this vacuum, and it kind of doesn't matter what it would do in live TF2.
Means like area of effect weapon? He said the word spam so much that it's lost all meaning. It's like 2016 when we used the term soy boy, like anybody was a soy boy for anything. Like, I don't know what you mean.
Medic lacks the Crusader's crossbow in this mod, which I still think is kind of a pain in the ass. The weapon in base game, which changed Medic much for the better, allowing skillful, long-range damage.
No, because it's a skill shot. And so if I am trying to hit a crossbow bolt on somebody, I have to know, first off, if they're going to stay still for the crossbow bolt, if I'm not conversating. And most Team Fortress 2 players nowadays on live don't conversate, but people in Classified do conversate. People in Classified are actual yappers and will actually conversate and talk over the game. But I say that to say this. You don't know if the person who is supposed to be the recipient of the Crusader's crossbow is actually going to stay still for it, whether they're going to move in a different direction. So predicting whether or not a person's going to do that and then you miss it, you have already lost the opportunity cost and have screwed yourself because your teammate didn't have enough wherewithal to realize that you were skilled with a crossbow bolt. And then that all resides on the premise that you're good with a crossbow bolt to begin with. And yes, that is a skill-based item. I want skill-based items in the game. But the fact that you get the zip zapper where you can just top off somebody is a lot more reliable, because then there can just be in your face and you just hit them, boop. And I have noticed that in terms of crossbow healing recipients, I am having an easier time getting people to stay still for the zap up from the zip zapper melee that the medic has. The zip zapper melee, actually people will stop for it. The crossbow bolt is a crapshoot on whether people have common sense or not. So I disagree. I hate the crossbow bolt. Now, I don't want it removed from the game or something, but I don't want it added to this one because I don't want people to have to guess whether... I think that there are problems to the design, and I think that that has always been a problem because it is very frustrating to play medic for your team, hit the crossbow, and then the person just like move out of the way of the gosh darn crossbow bolt. The guessing, I just don't like it.
Damage or healing, and big bursts of healing for your allies when needed. The Rejuvenator is kind of this mod's alternative, sort of. A medigun where you have to actually aim healing bombs at your dim-witted chud teammates who keep running into rockets. And again, since certain weapons don't have damage fall off, they're gonna need it. The Ubercharge is also an AoE, making this weapon almost invaluable in a game with this much spam. Under normal circumstances, the sheer amount of healing this weapon can produce by virtue of hitting multiple...
invaluable in this game where there are a bunch of explosives and damaging items, yes, coming from the offense, yes. However, in addition to also doing that, it also means that your teammates need to group up for it. So it's a self-balancing factor. You're going to have teammates that are grouping up to get hit with your bubbles at the same time. Your teammates over time do figure this out. And when that happens, at the same time, it is also grouping you up for the enemies to hit you. So I like that self-balancing feature. I think that it's well thought out. And I think maybe that's part of why you're seeing the spam. But I like the fact that even the Uber makes you all group up together. So it does kind of like put you all in a confined space.
Allies instead of being locked onto one person would be a total mess, as would the ability to effectively brute force your entire team through a choke with the Ubercharge, but this isn't normal circumstances, so it's honestly fine. What really matters is that this weapon is fun to use for the medic themselves in this mod. It works well in the metagame it's actually a part of. As you can imagine, being able to Uber multiple people is great when there's constantly shit flying at them, and it allows you to top off your team easily, people who are, again, taking more damage because more just random shit's flying at them. It's not the same as the precision of the crossbow, but it does fill as close of a niche as anything does in this mod, and it's pretty fun, so it's alright.
I don't want it to have the precision of the crossbow. I don't want the medic to have to hit skill shots to heal up the teammates. I want my medic to be effective in all scenarios at all times. I don't want my medic going out there trying to get like syringe kills. That's always annoying. I want them to be playing Team Fortress 2 in the way that it was intended to be played, where you're, actually engaging. So I don't want the skill shots, no.
The shock therapy is another weapon that very conveniently does an impression of the crossbow's job, this time taking the role of Medic's non-medigun burst healing device. I don't think this really does a great job of replacing the crossbow, simply because the crossbow's self-defense and long-range capabilities are a huge part of what makes that weapon so enjoyable, but it's fine in the context of this game, I guess. Again, it's just hard not to think about how we don't have the Crusaders, but we do have this kind of less interesting, more complicated alternative. Like, there's nothing wrong with this thing, it's just...
And all this stuff, like, more complicated. You say these things like they're a problem. Like, a thing being simple is good when it's good for your argument, and a thing being complex is bad when it's good for your argument. Like, saying a thing like this doesn't necessarily mean that I have pause and that I have really put thought into what I'm saying. I'm just saying it like this, and it makes you question whether or not there was really a question there to begin with, right? And so that's what you're saying here, is you're just like, it's not really any more thoughtful or pejorative or synonym from thesaurus, but I don't know that you're making an argument. I think you're just making a verbal bend, and you're just putting a question mark in there to make people not be confident in what you're saying. Does that make sense? Are you hearing yourself doing that? Because I'm hearing you do it.
I think the Crusaders is very similar and more fun.
I think it's more frustrating.
The mine layer. Alright, this is probably one of the weapons people were most looking forward to when clicking on this video if they've already played TFC, so let's just get it out there. This is some of the worst weapon design I have ever seen in my life, and again, I'm not saying that to be mean, it's just really bad. The sticky bomb launcher is already a weapon, as we've discussed, that is associated with powerful and consistent spam in many cases. This reputation isn't undeserved, because the sticky bomb launcher can be capable of throwing out tons of bombs that deal a lot of damage without needing the most precise aim, to say the least. And even outside of that capability, it's one of the best, if not the best weapon in the game, discounting maybe the metagun. The sheer damage potential, the ammo capacity, and the ability to set up lethal traps, the space it's capable of controlling, all combined to make this the premier weapon in Demo Man's arsenal. And while the weapon is very strong, there are some saving graces for you if you're facing it.
So it's like the premier weapon in Demo's arsenal, and it's like, you mean it's overpowered? And because it's a stock item, we're never allowed to evaluate the balance of stock items? Like, that's the third rail. That's like trying to take away Medicaid from the North Americans or something. It's like, no, don't touch my Medicaid. And it's like, this is the third rail, huh? You don't want your stock items to be nerfed in any way, shape, or form, even though Demo Man has always had two goddamn primary items, and they had to give him a fucking shield to try to take away some of that gosh darn sauce that he has. But you know what the result of the Demo Man shields are? Is when you're playing live Team Fortress 2, you get a Demo Man on your team, and then that Demo Man is going to be completely useless, and then the enemy team has a Sticky Man Demo Man that is going to blow the shit out of your team. And that's why it's a problem, is because if you're like not picking the Sticky Bomb Launcher, you're gimping yourself. It should have always been nerfed.
Notably, a Demo Man has to detonate manually, and this leaves an abundance of room for error on his part. The mine layer automatically detonates its own stickies, which is a terrible idea. Firstly, this takes a weapon whose skill floor is already pretty low, even lower, somehow. This allows the mine layer...
I was about to get offended, but no, actually on further review, I think that statement is true. The Sticky Bomb Launcher does have a low skill floor. I was thinking about its skill ceiling. But no, yeah, it does have a low skill floor. I would not say that this is, like, gimping yourself on having half of them. I think that that's fair. And then they just go off automatically. I'm fine with it. And you're not. And you think, you just are going to hear that concept and just think, well, that's profoundly unfun. And there is nothing that I will ever do to argue to you or anybody else who hates the mine layer that the mine layer is fine. I'm never going to be able to convince you. Maybe I can convince you on this, that, or the other thing, or on this point, on this nuance. I'm never going to convince you that the mine layer is a good idea. In the same way that I'm never going to convince people that stunning Ubers was fine. Like, I understand that that's a wild, wild hot take that nobody else is ever going to agree with. That's fine. But I'm never going to convince you that this thing is not problematic because your mind is made up for it. And so I'm not going to bother on this one too much. I have fun with it, and it's not as good as a Sticky Bomb Launcher, and I would rather die to it, to the mine layer, because I love dying to the mine layer. It's really fun. My favorite thing to do, and I've been accused of hacking for doing this, is to lay down mines right at the entrance of the Thunder Mountain, right at the base of the first point on Thunder Mountain, and then go back into the red spawn, and then I from the red spawn just look down at the spawn and then wait for them to step over it. And then when I do, I also do this with the Scottish Resistance, but like once they walk over it, I just like taunt. And then I've been accused of hacking. They're like, how did you get the mines through the spine? I'm like, I just went down there and manually placed them. I think it's funny. I always love laying the mines, stopping playing, finding a nice like little alcove to put my spray in, putting my back against the wall, and then just waiting for them to die so they can just zoom in on my kill cam.
To get kills that you're not even intending to get very often, and allows a Demo Man to fire and forget his stickies and
you didn't intend to get. I've never done that with a Sticky Bomb Launcher or a grenade launcher. One errant twitch of a fucking explosive somewhere. I don't know. I'm not going to make an argument here.
The weapon is just a huge pain in the ass for almost no reason. TF2c built a number of its weapons off of existing concepts that were cut for reasons most of the time from TF2. Again, like the brick. And these kinds of weapons are generally not very good because, you know, they were tested and found to be problematic for some reason that prevented them from being added to...
Problematic because people who complained about them. But if you go to the Steam-powered user forums, again, I don't even know if those exist anymore, you will find that people have complained about Team Fortress 2 items that did get released. A lot. All the time. Consistently. Over years. So I don't know, like the internal testing might have nixed those things, but it also could have been a focus group where they're like, I don't want to get hit with any amount of crowd control ever. And the launch Sandman has traumatized me, and now I'm upset with all stuns ever.
The mine layer somehow isn't one of those. This is all organic bad. It gives the demo man less agency over his own traps, and is way easier for him to mindlessly toss out and still cause trouble for his enemies. It just isn't good or skillful or, in my opinion, very enjoyable for anybody. And the fact that it had to be kneecapped so harshly is a sign that the design is rotten to the core. I wouldn't suggest the weapon be removed. It's not really my place to say that or to try to make any real decisions again, but I definitely think that's not the worst idea, or maybe that it should be, like, redesigned or something. I know as a YouTuber, I don't necessarily have...
If the team ever wants to redesign the mine layer in some form or fashion, I hope that they don't take out any of the elements that make the thing fun and cheesy. I think it's fine as is. You disagree, but I think your game has way worse items that are way less fun to play against. I don't want to hear conversations about this thing in conversations with the Phlogistinator for course of point.
Have the best ideas or solutions because I'm basing everything off of my incomplete knowledge of the game. But I think a good way to resolve the issue is to find whoever it was that came up with the mine layer and electrocute them, and then start over again.
When I heard that originally, I was just gut-busting laughing at the idea of electrocuting a person because they came up with a bad TF2 item. That was a really funny idea. That was a really funny joke.
We mentioned just a bit ago that certain weapons in Team Fortress 2c are built from ideas that were tried in the main game but never implemented, and the hunting revolver is basically one such weapon. I'm not really sure where I stand with this thing, in complete honesty. On paper, it's a weapon that seems
that Kaluka likes a Team Fortress 2 classified item. He has to put a trillion, well, actually, and I just don't know why he's doing that. You can just say you like an item. Like, I can say that I like items in Team Fortress 2 Live, right? Like, I don't know. Could you just, like, say it with your whole chest? You know what I mean? Am I crazy here?
Gives TF2 players pretty much exactly what they've asked for when it comes to Sniper. He can play closer to the front, he doesn't one-shot any classes anymore, you know, from full health. He's faster, and he no longer benefits from hard scoping. It's everything everyone says they've wanted, but in reality, I don't really notice too much of a difference playing against it versus playing against the default sniper rifle. I don't get one-shot as often, but I get two-shot far more consistently, and you're still taking 120 damage sometimes out of almost nowhere, which doesn't really feel any better. In practice, I don't think it really solves as many...
Because unless they can land the follow-up shot or have somebody there to do it, then you can escape. It does make a significant difference, especially on, heavier classes. You get hit in the head once with the hunting rifle as heavy, you're going to make a retreat. Because you know that those follow-up shots are easy and your head's huge, and they probably are using that rifle because they don't want a hard scope. So yeah, it gets people to retreat. I think that it is a better interplay item specifically because it has less one-shot capabilities. And even though it has two-shot capabilities and one-shot capabilities are vastly different abilities.
The issues with Sniper as it appears to, and I think the biggest problem this weapon produces is that it also gives Sniper 25 extra health, which I think is maybe a little bit unnecessary since it also gives him great close-range capabilities between zooming in just less and a faster fire rate and also 60 damage body shots and much faster unscoped shots. That being said, it is a lot of...
If Kaluka hears all the weasel words that they use, things like almost... makes, like, yeah, it's, what was that back there about the...
It really solves as many issues with Sniper as it appears to, and I think the biggest...
Right there, appears to. That does matter. Like, you're saying it appears that it's solving these things, and then you're just going on to say, like, it's actually not doing these things. But it appears to? Like, that's... It's because it is solving those problems. Like, I don't get headshot in this game and killed nearly as much as I do in live Team Fortress 2. Sniper feels nicer in this game. And if you disagree and you think that Sniper doesn't have those problems solved, then why do you keep using things in your verbiage that suggest that it is solving the problem? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if you're hearing yourself say, appears to. but then you just go on and say, like, it's not actually doing it. But if you're saying appears to, then obviously the game is giving you the impression that it is solving the problem, right?
Problem this weapon produces is that it also gives Sniper 25 extra health, which I think is maybe a little bit unnecessary since it also gives him great close range capabilities between zooming in just less and a faster fire rate and also 60 damage body shots and much faster unscoped shots. That being said, it is a lot of fun to use, so it's not all bad, but I don't think it solves as many problems as maybe people would think it does just by looking at it. While the sniper rifle can be annoying, at the very least a sniper usually dies if they don't hit an extremely difficult quickscope if they get pressured. The hunting revolver, between the damage ramp up for unscoped shots, the faster fire rate, and the extra health, makes it so that Sniper is a lot more capable of defending himself if he gets pushed, so your chances of ensuring his demise are much less concrete. Not that a Sniper really needs to worry about losing his range superiority, of course, because this thing still doesn't have falloff. It's not any less capable of delivering 120 damage headshots at the same ranges that the Sniper can normally deliver 150s, and also it can do them faster.
I do know that I said that don't listen to anything that he has to say, and don't, because his reasoning isn't good, and he clearly doesn't like this game in the same way that people who do enjoy playing this game already do. I don't think we should be catering this game for people who play Team Fortress 2 live, because they already have their own game that exists. I want this game to exist for people who enjoy gameplay, like Team Fortress 2 Classified is aiming for. That said, on the extra 25 health, he's 100% right, and his rationale does make the same amount of sense. The sniper should still be easy to pressure if you're pressuring him. And when you have the vanilla sniper rifle, I don't know why the 25 extra health is necessary there. If you're getting pressured as a squishy sniper, you should be in danger. I like that. And I like that with the sniper's hunting revolver, you don't need to get closer, but you are encouraged to get closer on account of you only got 2 times to scope in, as opposed to the more magnification with a regular stock rifle.
Idea, I think, is to make it more of a medium-range weapon, but I haven't really seen people necessarily do that. Like, it's better at the medium range, but it's also just as capable of being a pain in the ass at the long ranges, too. There's no mechanics or downsides that actually force a sniper to get closer, while still reserving their new close-range advantages for when they're necessary. For classes with 150 or less HP, the inability to get truly one-shot is kind of nice, but 120 isn't really that much different realistically, especially if any of the sniper's teammates are also shooting at or near you, and for classes with 175 to 200 HP, it's really no different, except now the follow-up headshots come faster and the sniper survives things he normally can't. The only good part about it is that the sniper can't charge up and hit 150 damage body shots anymore, which is very nice, but that's the only real significant advantage I think the weapon has design-wise. I enjoy using this in like a selfish sense, but I don't think it's necessarily as healthy for the game as it might appear on the outside. But, I'd also be...
The entire purpose of the thing is that you have, again, an alternative that is an alternative to the stock that is not as good as the stock. I don't think that the hunting revolver is quite as good as the stock, and maybe that's why they're wanting to give the 25 health. I don't like messing with the Merc's general health pool, but maybe that's why they're doing it. However, in the case of the... where was I going with that? I had a point and I lost it. I think it was, the demo man having the dynamite being not as good as the sticky bomb launcher. Yeah, because it's supposed to be less obnoxious.
Lying if I said I wasn't having fun with it. The coil gun is one of the better new weapons in the mod, in my opinion. I really like this little thing. It's based on a TF2c weapon, like a few other unlocks are, and the only problem I have with it is that it does contribute to the prevalence of spam, since it is long-ranged and accurate, and again, does not have damage fall-off.
And that's fine.
Otherwise, it is quite fun. You can hit ricochet shots with it, which is cute, and if you charge the shot long enough, you can rocket jump, which is also cute. It's good fun. It also combines well with the jump pad, the engineer's other unlock. Again, if it wasn't for that stupid fall-off thing, this would be like a perfect design. And a much better design is that jump pad, which is really simple. You put it down, it replaces your teleporter, you jump. It's honestly quite cool, and this is one of the better pieces of cut content that was materialized. Engineer is one of those characters that I personally have felt wasn't exactly evolved in quite the right ways as TF2 went on. He had some really great changes at some points, like with the Gunslinger, and then about an equal amount of not quite...
Gunslinger is apparently is apparently a positive item, but the Rescue Ranger is apparently a negative item. I want to hear the rationale for that at some point. But I would agree generally that there are problematic items involved in Team Fortress 2.
Interesting ones after. Engineer never having a new building beyond mini-centuries is one of those things I always thought was a misstep on Valve's part. There is just like so much design space you can explore with the building slot. It's basically a free ticket to do whatever the hell you want. Unfortunately, Valve never really took that opportunity, so it's cool to see someone else bring one of their ideas to life. It does have some problems with placing certain classes in obnoxious places, heavy and sniper specifically, so it's understandable how it never made it to release, but either way,
I don't, if that's the example being given is going to that part on steel as heavy and soldier, I don't know. That's not a problem to me. I don't have a problem with sniper and heavy being on that part of steel. That's not a problematic area.
If you look up spam, you're going to see images of a processed pork product because there's a whole world out there. But for our purposes, this weapon is the avatar of spam. The Dynamite is, again, a cut weapon kind of from both TFC and early versions of Team Fortress 2, appearing in a trailer as a replacement for TFC's MIRV grenade. The Dynamite has an...
I would rather get killed by that thing, and I would much less get killed by stickies, for sure. It is not as spammy as stickies are. I need to urinate. Oh my lord, the rent was definitely due on that tea. Anyway, I don't have a whole lot more to say on this, specifically about the Dynamite pack. I'm going to let him talk, see if I have any other points I want to make about it.
Initial large explosion and leaves lots of little bomblets in its wake. It's a bomb that creates more bombs. Again, I hate to use this word again because I said it like 5 times in this paragraph already, but this is quarrel, and it creates even more quarrel. And like, I know this isn't woke or whatever, but it might even be Carcase.
Dude, what the fuck? Why would you say that?
Look, I'm just saying the weapon is very one-dimensional, and honestly, I think it's really bland. I'm not at all surprised to see that it was replaced with the sticky bomb launcher, which is far deeper and more fun for all parties. The Dynamite simply isn't capable of making traps
for all parties. I would not say that whatsoever. I would say that the sticky bomb launcher is and always has been the most overpowered item in Team Fortress 2, and people are not willing to assess that on account of it being stock and everything's balanced against stock. But stock Demo Man has always been too good. The fact that they went down from the 6 to the 4 on the pipes should alone let you know that they just didn't know where the Demo Man was at. And I think time has bore out that there is not any Demo Man secondary that you can give to him that is on equal footing with the sticky bomb launcher. The sticky bomb launcher always has been obnoxiously too good. And of course, it's a very skillful weapon with a low skill floor and a high skill ceiling. So we don't want to touch it, but it probably has too many bombs.
Demo Man traditionally does. Maybe at best you could like lure someone into a bomb as it explodes, but that's not really the same thing. It's not capable of the same kind of movement or space control. Its only real purpose is to saturate an area for a while and make people kind of wait a lot. Because once it goes off, you gotta sit there and wait for all the little bomblets to explode too, unless an NG or a Pyro deals with it. And actually bringing up Pyro is a really...
interplay and that there's counterplay to it. And that if you don't have an engineer or a Pyro at the front lines to deal with the explosive, that you are up shit's creek. Yeah, it's Team Fortress 2. I like that. I like the interplay. I like the anti-aircraft cannon getting mini crits or crits on flying targets. I think that that's a good thing. I like form follows function, and I like that these items do what they say they're going to do. You throw the pack of dynamite, it does the thing that you would expect it to do, and that's what Team Fortress 2 Live has completely lost. There are a lot of items in there that you don't know what they do or why they do. You just learn that they do the things over time. And I think that that's why there is so much Team Fortress 2 YouTube content, because people want to see what the game is like before they play it, because there's too much bullshit to learn. They don't know why, hey, the soldier survived that. Yeah, because they were getting health back. And it's like, yeah, but it tells you after you die, so it's not a problem. It is, because visually it's not telling you that you get your health back when you're killing people on it. I don't like that. I like form follows function. I want the thing to do what it's supposed to look like it's doing.
Good point, because I think the Dynamite made a lot more sense in a world where Pyro did not have Air Blast. Much like a Sticky, Pyros can't, like, change the team or the owner of this like they can with pills if they Air Blast it, but just being able to send this back at the Demo Man, or even just really put it where he doesn't want it, can make this weapon incredibly, almost entirely useless. Again, you only get the one Dynamite pack, so it's one Air Blast and you're toast. And again, this is one of the problems with the mission statement of TF2c. Originally, the mod sought to bring back or realize many weapons or items that were seen or tested in Team Fortress 2 at some stage, but were scrapped for one reason or another. And the thing is that while Valve, especially more so in the modern day than they used to be, is quite lazy, quite greedy, and very uncaring when it comes to Team Fortress 2, they're not stupid. They weren't incapable of, nor did they fail to find good reasons not to include many of these concepts, and the Dynamite is a great example. The Dynamite probably wasn't added just because it's not really that fun. The original objective of the mod in that...
I disagree. I have fun with the thing. I like hitting people with the thing. I like how it explodes. When you're saying you're not having fun with it, you're not really given like a critique to go off of. You're describing what it does, and then I'm listening to you describe what it does, and I'm like, yeah, I like that it does that. And then you're like, I don't like that it does that. And it's like, then clearly we have different philosophies on this stuff, and you should stay in your game and I'll stay in mine. Unless I want to play with the Scottish Resistance, in which case I'm still going to do that on Classified because we got custom servers and we can do that stuff. I'm still hoping to curate my own server with my own items that I like and blackjack and hookers.
Sense is kind of like a doomed journey. The end goal is to create weapons that Valve already tested and found were kind of bad. So if you succeed, you fill your mod with weapons that are kind of bad, which is a bit silly because we should probably fill the game with weapons that are like, you know, good. And if you'll indulge a quick...
Then Team Fortress 2 Live should have done that.
Tangent of mine, which, I mean, you're like 45 minutes into this. The fuck are you doing today? This thing is poo. Like, even outside of all the design problems, this thing from an effectiveness standpoint is just terrible. And while the inherent design flaws might not be something the devs can realistically fix while adhering to their mission statement, they could probably make this thing better. Maybe, is sort of the issue. The Dynamite is just really hard to do something with unless you're playing against people who completely refuse to move. For one thing, it has a telegraphed timer, so no matter what, your opponents have a certain amount of time where they can just walk away from it. If you hit them directly, you do get a little bit of a knockback and 30 damage, but it's not so much that it like guarantees a combo with the main explosion. If you throw this at or near a Pyro, they can just let the first explosion go off and then they can extinguish all the bomblets, so half your thing is just gone. And if you throw this at an engineer, they can defuse the first stage of the explosive. So if you're playing against somebody who's paying attention, you can't even really use this to clear nests. And mind you get like one Dynamite on a much longer cooldown than it takes to reload one Sticky Bomb, for which you could load 8 at a time. The problem is that buffing this thing could also be kind of a disaster because it's a very all or nothing item. Either you hit somebody with the Dynamite or you don't. So if you make the one shot you get too powerful, people are going to get one shot or seriously damaged by stray Dynamite, and it's going to be annoying. Though I still think there's something they could do with like the rewards on a direct hit or maybe the cooldown period that could make the weapon a lot more viable.
Again, I like that the item is not as viable as the Sticky Bomb launcher. However, I do agree that it is one of the weaker items in the game and probably does need to be assessed at some point for a buff. However, at the moment, I would not say that it is like throwing. You know what I mean? Like you're not gimping yourself to the same degree that you would be using certain other items in certain other games. Like it's not as good as the Sticky Bomb launcher. However, getting a high value combo kill is in upon itself the pick that you're really wanting. You know what I mean? Like if you just nuke a heavy into oblivion with a combo kill or something of that nature, then it is paid for its price of admission. Like theoretically, a lot of items that aren't even good items, you can still get a lot of mileage out of. I'm rambling at this point, but the point of the Dynamite sticks not being as great as they could be is definitely well merited. There is a lot of validity to that.
The nail gun is another weapon that was cut out of Team Fortress's history somewhere, and is actually one of the oldest designs, I believe, because this is something that was returning from TF Quake, arguably even just straight up Quake itself. And it's like fine. I don't know. I don't think it's like that much fun, but I also don't think it's offensive. It's okay. That isn't a very exciting opinion, but I think that the scatter gun is just something you can't compete with. Scout is like a microcosm of everything that I've at least personally been gushing about and love about Team Fortress 2 for as long as I've had this channel. The burst damage, the movement, the dance that two players have because of their slow fire rates, the freedom, the aim, all of it combines to make Team Fortress 2 as good as it is. This weapon really isn't that. With this thing, you kind of just like lob nails through chokes or doorways or whatever, with much less, again, consideration for your aim than I think you have with the scatter gun. It's not that you don't have to aim with this thing, it's just that, you know, if you miss like 3 nails, it doesn't matter. You've got like 25, and you fire them really fast. It's not without any fun, of course, and it's not unskillful, but I do think it's much less so than stock scattergun is, which is, again, probably why it got replaced. The only issue this weapon really has
to say on that, I do not hate the nail gun. I really don't. It is, in terms of fun factor, one of the least fun items for me. But I'm also, then again, like a huge fan of the scattergun. And I'm also not a huge fan of the shortstop. I don't like the... I want the scout to have to get close to do damage. And I like this as an alternative, specifically because sometimes when you're playing scout, if there are too many sentries around, there's just not much you can really do. So I do like this as an alternative to situations where there's a sentry and you're kind of like caught off guard, so you can't get real close to like, get frags and kill people. So this is nice when you're kind of like locked down and you don't have full access to where you want to go as a scout yet. Having this as an option is nice. And so that is the biggest use case I think that there is for the nail gun at the moment. But a lot of what he's saying is absolutely right. The scatter gun is just really fun to use for good reason.
Again, is its contribution to that same spam problem, because it's way more accurate than the scattergun is at longer ranges, but outside of that, it's, I don't know, it is what it is. I could understand if somebody had like a completely different opinion than me and they really loved this weapon, because it is kind of unique for scout. If you're the kind of person who likes like battle medic, for instance, you're probably gonna love this thing. It's basically just an upgunned version of the syringe gun. But personally, I just don't find that really quite as appealing. Let's keep the trend of TFC/TF2 beta weapons going with the Tranquilizer, which was a weapon in Team Fortress Classic, and is also abysmal from a design perspective. Please put this thing back in the box, and the box back in the foreboding foggy marshlands where you found it. This thing is terrible. The weapon fires a dart, and that dart causes color blindness, slows the victim, and reduces their fire rate, and makes them take crits from melee attacks. And I'm pretty sure it also slows your weapon swap speed, if that just wasn't enough. I'm not sure at what point this weapon should just...
all fun and interesting things, and if you don't find the crowd control element of that fun, that's perfectly fine. Your game has significantly less crowd control. It does have a lot of other weird stuff, but I'm going to show you using this item and not understanding what it's for. It's for making an escape. It's not like supposed to be a combat item. It can combo with, your melee, so you can like face stab a person and kill them that way. But
to give the spy the kill, but this is almost like a joke with the number of things it does to someone without just killing them. As you can probably imagine, this weapon is incredibly annoying to get hit with.
Already has too many items that just outright kill people. That's kind of the problem right there with the extinguisher. It's too fucking good. So when it's that good, how are you going to make an item that competes against it? You don't. Free kill or easier kill or reduced input to get kill is always going to be the better thing.
Especially if it kills you, because it does everything imaginable to hand the spy a crit butter knife on a silver platter at the expense of any sense of enjoyment the victim could have. The fucked up part is that in a lot of cases, the spy still can't capitalize off the shot. Like if there's, 2 people around you and you've broken your disguise.
It's supposed to be like more of an escape tool or a finishing off tool. It's supposed to be both. It's one or the other, and you can use it either or, but you only get one before you have to reload. You're not supposed to spam it into a choke, which is what you end up doing.
You have
to reload, and you have no revolver, so you probably have to either retreat from the second person or die, or any number of other things that can cause you to not be able to just walk at somebody with a melee. So now you're stuck as a spy with one real weapon and probably just running around firing these annoying slowing darts at people. There were a lot of games I had where I did exactly this. I was just like an annoying battlefield gnat that ran around and fired these things at people without even trying to capitalize with my...
Christ. It's Subway. You made the sandwich. You made the gameplay. You recorded the footage. You could have used the thing as I'm suggesting, where you find one target instead of like trying to get a clip of you getting a kill with the thing. Instead, you just use it in the one-on-one scenario for which it was intended. But you're not doing that here. You're going into a big old team fight, not disguising and wondering why you're looking like a fool. You're not meant to do that. I think that would have been preeminently obvious, that this thing is not meant to be used in the same way the revolver is.
Knife. The question is, what does success look like for this weapon design? Seriously. Either it has very little, if any, impact, and it's a nuisance, and the spy has gimped his own self-defense capabilities to, I guess, frustrate people, or it has a lot of
self-defense capabilities at escaping a spy than the regular one does. When you have colorblind a person, they don't know who is friend and foe, and they get very easily confused. The amount of times that I have been colorblinded and then just fired at people because I was in a crowded area and then the spy just escaped is numerous. It happens frequently.
Packed. And results in a kill, and that victim gets killed in a way that feels more annoying, less counterable, and less skillful than 2 normal revolver shots would. If not for the fact that somebody
obvious right there, you kept spamming this thing into a pyro as the pyro was approaching you and just lit you on fire. You were going to die there every single time. Whether you had that or a revolver or not, they would have just retreated if you dinked them a few times with a revolver. Again, I'm saying like all of these what ifs, like you just have that scenario there, and I just don't know that you look smart in that scenario using the tranquilizer in the way that you were, is all I'm saying.
Out there had to volunteer their time and effort to make this, which I really do appreciate. I like indie devs. I would suggest this thing just get removed entirely. No, I should probably specify this thing isn't overpowered by a country mile, which is 1.3 city miles because cities are denser, but regardless of what it ends up doing, someone is rolling their eyes at this weapon because it's not fun. Again, this is where the original objective of the project kind of fails the end product. There's things this weapon could...
subjective, and you not having fun with it is perfectly fine. I'm having fun with it. I enjoy being the victim of the thing because I have a sense of humor, and I think that my sense of humor is grander than the average sense of humor of the average live Team Fortress 2 player. And in general, I would say that most of the classified people are more jovial as well. More willing to be the victim of an abusive or cheesy item, I would say. Because most of these items are not nearly as cheesy as the ones in the live game, I want to be honest.
Probably do if the idea was to make a more supportive spy revolver. But because the original job of the mod was to make Team Fortress 2 act a bit more like the early branches of the game and to act as sort of a alternative timeline, and part of the mission statement is to resurrect functions of weapons from, like, for example, Team Fortress Classic, you end up with kind of having to make weapons like this when you could probably come up with something more creative or better if you just divorced yourself from what this thing used to do or be.
I disagree. I think that the item is fun to use, and I don't think it was meant as a support tool. I think it was meant as an escape tool or a finishing off tool. I think that that's what the design of the weapon is asking for. I don't think it's meant for you to spam it into a choke over and over again and say that you're helping your team.
The anti-aircraft gun is another one of these weapons that I'm not really sure where I stand on. It's a minigun, but it fires a slower, very accurate hit-scan shots that terminate into a blast at a specific range, or if it hits something. Basically, you lose every heavy 1v1 against miniguns unless, you catch them off guard or something, and you can shoot around corners, and you can mini-crit anybody who dares to have fun by blast jumping, because this weapon inherits one of the worst stats from Team Fortress 2. Mini-crits people who are not exactly blast jumping, but anybody who's like jumping while being higher than a regular jump goes is how they do it. It's neat in that it requires a little bit more precision.
Aircraft gun, yeah. I like it for its design. I like what it does. It's a different kind of heavy weapon for the heavy weapon guy to have. I like it. again, you just disagree that that it's unfun to have mini-crits on airborne targets. As a person who likes to rocket jump a lot, I like that there is counterplay. I like that there is something to slow me down. I like that there are items that encourage jumping, blast jumping, and doing that kind of stuff. And I like that more characters have options of those kinds of things, and that those things are kind of democratized, and that the power level is nice and lower. And I like that this has like that unique upside of, oh, there's a lot of blasting people. I now have an item that's going to help me do that. And you disagree, but I like how these pieces fit together.
That the minigun, but I don't really know what this weapon is supposed to do beyond being a neat novelty, which is fine, of course. Weapons can just be fun, and some of the best weapons in TF2 are the ones that just aim to be fun, independent of any greater effect on the metagame, like the Hitman's Heatmaker or the Beggars, and I think this is kind of in the same vein. It's fine, I guess, though as a soldier main, I always find weapons that punish soldiers and demos and scouts and anybody else for being in the air and doing cool movement stuff, you know, the stuff that their character was designed to do, kind of annoying. But otherwise, it's fine. It's like, what if there was a minigun that did everything the opposite of the normal minigun?
You know, aside from the
And second,
which is annoying because it's just too good. This is a Primera weapon, so it should be able to mini-crit people flying through the air. Again, that's my feelings on the matter.
Lastly, we have the Force of Nature, but it's on Pyro, and it's not really that bad. It truly is just the Force of Nature, but Pyro has it, and also it does this like weird only horizontal spread thing. I don't know why it does that or what value that gives to the design, but it's there. Effectively, this is all of the movement parts of the detonator, but without all of the annoying parts of the detonator. And if you don't know what I mean by the annoying parts, I mean the fact that if you're playing against a competent Pyro, the ability to detonate them mid-air basically means that the Pyro can't miss. And this means that the weapon is not very problematic, and it is a decent amount of fun. However, I really feel like it is missing out by not having a crit or combo melee weapon to go with it. Like, this thing is the perfect delivery method for something like the Extinguisher. It gets you into range really quickly, so you can hit them with the Extinguisher. But you only have the Harvester in this game.
Is to get you into range, so you can hit them with your Flamethrower, which is your primary weapon. This is not combo Pyro, and I can't stress to you enough how much this is supposed to be a different balancing philosophy. I do not want Demo Knight in this game. I do not want combo Pyro. I don't want the Gunslinger. I don't want these items in this game. I want them on custom item servers. Sure, I want people to curate their own weird meta environment where their items are there and these are their items that they like and they have put their thought into it, their design philosophy. I don't want those items in this game. And I really am worried about you continuing to ask for these items to be put in this game, because I don't want these items to be put in that game. I don't want to have to make a server for myself where I ban these items because they're silly. I don't want a detonator in this game.
So you're in this really weird oxymoronic situation where if you have crits with the Harvester, and that's an if, you can use the double barrel to jump at the enemy and crit them after you stand around doing nothing for a while. Pyro's Flamethrower, like just the regular WM1, is significantly stronger in this game than it is in live TF2, so you could combo it with that and it's not bad, but let's be real, this thing is like screaming for some kind of a combo melee to work with. Now obviously, it's not too late for them to add that. The mod team could just make a combo melee, like they could do what they did with the Ubersaw.
Like, actually listen to what their goals as artists are. Their goals as artists are to go a different direction. We don't need Pyro to end up in the same place that live Team Fortress 2 Pyro is. That's how we ended up in this predicament and needing this game in the first place. We want this game to be a separate balancing patch that is different and has blackjack and hookers and doesn't have the detonator and doesn't have a lot of these problematic items that when you add a bunch of items into the game and then you can't ever take them out, then some of them end up being shit, and then you have to rework them a bunch, and then you're in the quagmire that the live game is in. This game is not in that quagmire. It could end up in that quagmire if we add a bunch of combo items and Demo Knight bullshit and all that stuff. And again, the custom item servers are there. If you only like Team Fortress 2 Classified, not because it has better items or different items or whatever, just because it has more and you can go to the custom servers, then go to the custom servers and play with the freaking items you want to play with, or make it. But like, please do not add the vanilla detonator or a extinguisher. That defeats the entire purpose of the harvester. The harvester is supposed to be not as good extinguisher.
And make like an almost extinguisher, which I think would be a great idea. And finally, the last weapon we have to talk about, the accursed axe of Armageddon. Uh-huh. Okay, shit. Sorry, my agent tells me that's for the next video. It's actually the anchor. And the anchor is like the market gardener. It's a melee weapon that does something when you rocket jump, except it doesn't require like
used in the market gardener, which is the point.
It really any precision, and it's also not nearly as good. I feel bad about saying this, I guess, but again, it's like a bad imitation of something we already have. Unlike the market gardener, which is very open with what it qualifies as a blast jumping state, pretty much any time right after you've done a rocket jump of any sort, even after like a bunny hop, which would still count, the anchor only allows you to do like the anchor bombing attack after you reach a certain height requirement. Basically, you have to fall from a certain amount of distance or else the anchor is just a regular melee weapon. Actually, it's a regular melee weapon with downside. So the only things you can really do with the anchor...
This actually has a downside, so it's a better designed weapon because the market gardener, no random crits, is not a real downside. That said, the downsides of the unique, interesting weapons in this game actually have downsides. Like, you are a heavier son of a bitch for having the anchor, and that's the point. So this item is a better item, in my opinion, for that reason alone, but also not just because it's an easier item to use that has a lower skill floor and a admittedly lower skill ceiling. It is also designed to be more narrow in its use cases. You have to get up high to get the arc to use this thing effectively, and that's how I like it. Now, as somebody who is decently good with a market gardener, not like an expert or anything, and I'm certainly not been playing Team Fortress 2 Live ever since this shit came out, but with the market gardener in the past, I was pretty good with it. And when the game went free to play and there were a lot more shitters in the game, things like that spiced up the game when there was a huge skill differential between myself and other people on the server. That said, it is kind of shitty that there is a larger skill expression learning curve that needs to be learned to do good with the market gardener. And I'm not like knocking people who want the skill-based element there. You have live Team Fortress 2 where you have access to it. The anchor is the baby mode, and it's a lot easier to use, and I don't want it tampered with whatsoever. I like where the anchor is at. It is a fantastic bombing tool, and it kills people perfectly fine. You just jump on a squishy, then boom, they're dead. Yeah.
Are these really big high bombs out in the open, and that is it. Again, it just isn't as skillful, it just isn't as hard, and it just isn't as free. It's not really
spam. Terms like this. Again, I don't care about skill in terms of Team Fortress 2. We're going on here to chill out with people who are like-minded and enjoy the game and chat and socialize and stuff like that. I just don't have any time in my assessment for skill. Now, I have like assessment for like skill ceiling, but not every item needs to be a high skill ceiling item. I just want most of the items to have a low skill floor so that people can use them and engage with them and get better with them. I want all of these things to be easy to use and harder to master. Now, obviously, not all the characters are balanced in such a way as to make them all easy to use in all circumstances, but I need the skill pedantry to cease, because it's not what Team Fortress 2 is about, I don't think. It's about engaging with the game at whatever skill level you're at, in my opinion.
That cool by comparison. It kind of feels like the idea of the market gardener as understood by somebody who isn't necessarily very good with the market gardener, and I say that as somebody who really isn't that good with the market gardener. It's fun for a little bit because it is really easy to just get into, which is something that the market gardener isn't necessarily that good at. It is a very difficult weapon to start.
Now, my PC just crashed on me, but I pretty much said everything I needed to say about Kaluka's video. Again, the only thing I really have to say is directly to the Team Fortress 2 developers. Don't listen to anything that he said in this video. Don't listen to any of that feedback. Kaluka, to you, I hope that you continue to enjoy Team Fortress 2 Live. I will never, and I promise this to you, suggest balance changes for Team Fortress 2 Live, because it's not a video game that I play, so I'm not going to provide meaningful feedback on it. I'm just going to say that in my game, this is how I want stuff to be balanced. And your philosophy and the Team Fortress 2 classified design philosophy are quite clearly divergent, and that's good. That's great for everybody. These items were not meant for you, they were meant for us. And respectfully, I hope that you have a wonderful day. I hope that the Team Fortress 2 classified people do whatever they think is best and proceed with grace and dignity.